Hello, 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 hello. Hi guys, welcome to Book Club Nipoka, and I'm back. We're continuing with our reading, and the book we're reading is Every Waking Moment by Meryl Sawyer. Yesterday I was doing the book read with I was doing the book read on my front camera, but it was so bad. So today I'm using my back camera. Today I'm using my back camera. It's gonna be better, but I can't be able to see any of the comments. So I hope you guys like the reading with no interferences or anything. Just a good quiet session, right? So yesterday we left off where we found Renata. The mother found Renata. Taylor, I think her name is Taylor, is supposed to go and meet Renata. Renata is a superstitious woman, and Taylor is still stuck over Pete Donovan. And then there's this new guy, Shane Donovan. The other one was Peter who? Pete somebody. And their mother is Vanessa, yeah. So we know that Peter was Taylor's fiance. We know Rio or Marco is the brother's boyfriend. We know Lisa is her best friend who used to be married to her brother but got a divorce. We know Uncle Doyle and the sexy Brianna, right? Yeah. Yeah. And we know that Renata was adopted when she was small. Okay, too much recapping. We needed it though, so I should have brought my sugar here. I have the tea and I don't have the sugar. Before we start, right? So that I'll go on a break because I can't finish the tea right now. So I hope y'all can hear me. So chapter 4. Blowback, an interesting concept. It hadn't been on anyone's radar screen until terrorists had struck the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Then the idiots in the media interviewed the military who had coined the term blowback. Meant something. Who had coined the term? Blowback meant something you did could backfire and return with a vengeance to haunt you. Unintended negative consequences. The CIA trained Afghan men during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan in the days of the Cold War, when limiting the spread of communism was a priority for this country. Later, those same men took their experiences and unleashed it on American targets. Blowback, big time. That's biting the hand that fed you, he chuckled. Then amended his statement. No, it's cutting off the hand that fed you. That's blowback. It's worse than what you put out in the first place. It intensifies with time, feeds on hate. He looked out the window at the heat shimmering upward in moist curls from the damp pavement, bringing with it a whiff of the loamy soil in the planter's thinking. Another interesting aspect of blowback was Unix. That was so bad. Another interesting aspect of blowback was its unexpectedness. It wasn't the old, you reap what you sow. Not at all. Things done with the best of intentions, even love, could boomerang after sulking in the shadow for years. No good deed goes unpunished. That was certainly an aspect of blowback in this case. He couldn't help being pleased with himself. The Maxwells were experiencing big-time blowback. The past was coming back to haunt them. No, torture them is a better way of putting it. Death will be the ultimate prize for crossing him. Too bad no one would be smart enough to figure the blowback angle. It was a killer concept. Accurate, deadly, utterly fascinating. I'm finally enjoying myself. Shane stood beside Brianna and Taylor, waiting for Caleb Bassett to answer the bell at the Coral Town house on the fringe of New Orleans French Quarter. The paint on the building once had been a warm coral, but it had faded to a dirty, nameless shade. It was cracked and peeling in so many places that the building appeared to be molting. The rancid smell of garbage spilling from the overturned trash can across the narrow street reminded Shane of the places he'd visited in third world countries. Shane rang the bell again, conscious of Taylor looking up at him. On the flight from Miami, she'd sat in stony silence and let Brianna do the talking. He didn't press it. The one thing he had on his side was time. Why would he leave if he told us to come over? Taylor asked. After they'd checked into the Windsor Court Hotel, Shane had Caleb Bassett, father of the woman who might be Vanessa's daughter. Renata was unavailable, but Caleb said he would be willing to talk to them. Where in the hell was he? Unexpectedly, the door swung open. A handsome man with thick black hair brushed with silver at the temples beamed a grin worthy of a televangelist. He was dressed in a maroon something. Would it be called a smoking jacket? And black velvet hush puppies. Shane Donovan. Shane extended his hand. This is Brianna Maxwell and Taylor Maxwell. Caleb Bassett. He bowed slightly to the women while he shook Shane's hand with a firm grip. Come on in. I have tea ready. Tea? What a brilliant idea. Shane waited for Brianna and Taylor to enter, already dreading interviewing this man. His shitometer had just gone off the chart. This kind of man would be hard to judge. Shane could already see Bassett had a certain quality some people would find charming, and he knew how to exploit it. So did most con artists. They followed Caleb as he wanted to be called. They followed Caleb as he wanted to be called down a narrow hallway with wood floors so highly buffed that Shane could almost see his reflection. The living room, Caleb called it, the parlor was a sunny room facing an immaculately maintained rear garden. The room was decorated in what Shane assumed were period pieces, possibly authentic antiques, the kind of prissy French furniture. I had something, I think the likes, thank you. The kind of prissy French furniture and wait, the kind of prissy French furniture, upholstered in brocade that made a big man like Shane think twice before sitting down. He planted himself on the end of a chaise across from Caleb and near Taylor, who had taken a French chair with flimsy wooden legs. Brianna had seated herself next to Caleb, and she was saying something about how lovely the home was. "You were expecting something less refined?" Caleb asked. "Well, we weren't sure." "Security, my dear." Caleb leaned closer to Brianna. "The quarter is rife with crime. From all appearances, we wouldn't have anything to steal, would we?" "Got that right?" Brianna giggled, and Taylor managed a smile while taking in as much as the rest of the room as he could without making it obvious. Shane kept his gaze on Caleb, who was now offering them tea. No family photos, nothing that seemed really personal. The place reminded Shane of a movie set, except for of something in the air. It might have been it might have been incest, except Shane had spent too much time in Colombia not to recognize kick-ass marijuana. He listened to Caleb describing the crumpets, scones, and pastries on the coffee table in front of them. A multi-tiered dish held a variety of bite-sized sandwiches on bread with the crust cut off. Shane couldn't help recalling afternoon gatherings in foreign embassies where he'd been with special forces. You'd need a mountain of those things to equal half a sandwich. Real men did not eat cucumber sandwiches. As he listened, Shane detected more than a hint of deep south in Caleb's voice. Arkansas, Alabama, maybe Tennessee. Arkansas, Alabama, maybe Tennessee. Linguistics wasn't his expertise, but he'd been in enough dangerous places to know to listen to the difference in intonation that could warn you about a person's background. In some places like the Middle East and South America, the slightest difference in pronunciation indicated a person was from another tribe, an enemy. Mistaking someone for a member of the wrong group could prove to be deadly. The world had gone global in many aspects, yet in other ways the world seemed to be hunkering down into nations within nations, split-off states, tribes, and in America, gangs. "Milk in your tea, Shane?" Caleb was asking. Shane shook his head and waved off the cube of sugar Caleb was offering him with silver tongs. Caleb reached for one of the cucumber sandwiches. "Just a scones, please." "I was expecting Vanessa," Caleb said, taking Shane by surprise. "Vanessa? Not Mrs. Maxwell?" She had pressing business, that's why she sent us. Shane knew Vanessa had spoken with this man on the telephone, obviously. She hadn't told him about her failing health. Equally as apparent, this was a guy who looked to get real charming. Who liked to get real charming. He was already using everyone's first name, as if they were his friends. Bassett's friends? Now, there's a depressing thought. We want to verify that your adopted daughter is my mother's. Oh, she is. Caleb cut Taylor off. We discussed it on the phone. Your mother agreed that it would be just too much of a coincidence for me to have adopted Renata in such a small town as Titusville, just after Titusville. Titusville, just after she'd given birth less than 20 miles away. Me? Taylor asked. Don't you mean us? Weren't you married when you adopted Renata? Damn good point. Taylor had picked up on his word choice. Of course. Caleb sounded unfazed. But Mary Jo has been gone so long now. I've been a single father since Renata was 5. There hasn't been an us for almost 30 years. You've never remarried? This from Brianna. A man of a taste and refinement. Shane nearly choked on his corn and was forced to wash it down with a swig of tea. Caleb went for it, beaming a white-toothed grin at Brianna. Who could blame him? She was a knockout with a ready smile, unlike Taylor who rarely smiled. I was too busy raising Renata and working to bother with romance. Yeah, right. What proof do you have that this baby you adopted is Vanessa Maxwell's daughter? Shane asked. Proof? Caleb asked as if Shane was speaking in tongues. I explained that a fire had destroyed our home. Everything we own went up in smoke. I couldn't even save our wedding album or the family photographs. Well, hell. This just kept getting better and better. Shane had to give him credit though. The man sounded sincere. But with this much stake, anyone could deliver an Oscar-worthy performance. What year was that? It took Caleb a second too long to say. 1987. That was in Titusville? No. We were living in Briggs Crossing. That's in Alabama too? No, it's in Arkansas near Little Rock. Shane nodded, thinking it shouldn't be too hard to verify the fire, of course. What the family photographs would have shown was a whole other question. He reached into his sports coat inside pocket for the small pen and notepad. Look, we're going to need to verify a few facts before. That's not what Vanessa said. My mother is a little impatient at times. Taylor informed Caleb in the same cool tone she used on Shane so often. That's why we're here. It's a fact-finding mission, Brianna added in a voice meant to diffuse the tension. We need to prove or disprove your claim, Shane added. again wishing they had time to run a DNA test. I'm not claiming anything, Caleb said. You contacted missing, Shane reminded him. I thought Renata deserved to meet her real mother, Shane said. There must be something we could take back to Mrs. Maxwell that will verify your statements. Talk to Renata, Caleb said with a wave of his hand toward the garden beyond the window. She's there. I thought you said at this time of day? No. She's out shopping, but she lives in the slaves' quarters out back. Beyond the small garden was another house. Even at this distance, Shane could see it had been meticulously restored, unlike the outside of the compound facing the street. When do you expect her to return? Taylor asked. She usually comes home between 4 and 5. Brianna checked her Rolex. She'll be here any minute. It's almost 5 now. Caleb smiled at Brianna, and Shane detected more than a casual hint of interest in the older man's eyes. 5 in the morning, just before sunrise. She can't possibly be shopping until then, Taylor said. Shopping? Of course not. She'll leave the shops and go directly to the club. Her act starts at 11 and finishes at 2. Caleb crossed his legs and gazed at the toes of his hush puppies. You might want to watch her dance at Puss in Boots. The luminous dial on Renata's watch told her it was almost 7 o'clock. How long had she been locked in here? She'd dozed off, losing track of time. That terrible man. What was his name? Hadn't left her. Had he? No, that wasn't what this Jack wanted. Since she'd bought her first bra at Walmart when she'd been 12, Renata had known what men wanted. Sex. Once you got with the program, life was simple, most of the time. Dick Breath Caleb could complicate things, but only if she let him. This man was another story. It wasn't as if she hadn't had kinky sex in the past, but she'd done her level best to stay out of dangerous situations until now. Hey! Hey! She banged on the door and screamed at the top of her lungs. For all the good it would do, she'd been taken to a shanty supported by rickety wooden stilts deep in the swampy part of the bayou. 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 Nobody was around to hear her except the alligators and the mosquitoes. She'd given up swatting them. They buzzed through the cracks between the shack's wooden slats, even though someone had tried to plug the gaps with fly paper. She hadn't lost her mojo, had she? A dancer at the club told Renata a mojo was a good luck charm that came in the air. You couldn't see it, couldn't feel it, but your mojo protected you, bringing good luck. Where was her mojo when she needed it? The dull thud of boots clacked against the wooden floor. A second later, the door opened enough to let in a shaft of light from the lantern. The only light in the one-room shack, a fresh stream of air rife with the mossy, pungent smell of the bayou hit her damp body. "Ready to do what I say?" asked the gruff voice. "Fuck off and die!" Renata silently swallowed those words. "Yes, I'll do whatever you want." The door flung back, hitting the wall with a splintering sound like wood shattering. A gush of dank body odor engulfed her. A meat hook overhung grabbed her long hair, flung her sideways, then dragged her from the closet. He pulled her across the rough plank floor. A splinter stabbed into her butt with the force of a knife. "Ow, ow, stop!" She couldn't perform tonight with a red mark on her ass, but he didn't pay any attention to her. The beast kept yanking on her hair until she thought he intended to scalp her. Suddenly, Puss in Boots seemed a distant memory. He let go of her hair and grabbed her arms, hauling her up to her knees. Her face smack against the worn denim covering his crotch. He was fully erect, a bull of a man, suited to horse incursion dives among the bayou. Not her. In her own right, Renata was a class act. Using both hands, he kept her face buried against his cock, her lungs forced to inhale the foulness of his body. His chest was bare and sleek with oily sweat, dribbling down from a damp mat of curly chest hair. She opened her mouth wide and bit down on his cock. The denim was worn, but enough protection to elicit a guttural moan of pleasure. She clamped down again and used more force this time. "Motherfucker!" He jumped away. "You'll pay, bitch!" "Don't hurt me," she whimpered. The hulk of a man scooted sideways onto a pallet of straw. Even from a few feet away, she smelled the rank odor of mildew and sex. "Strip," he ordered, the words coming from between the clenched teeth as he gripped his sore dick with both hands. She heaved herself to her feet, her legs numb and tingling from being imprisoned in the closet for so long. Swaying from the effort, not from any attempt to titillate, she slowly pirouetted, running her hands down her hips. The splinter in her ass throbbed like a tooth in need of a root canal, but she didn't dare stop to pull it out. "Come on, big guy. Keep that boner up." She flung her sheer blouse over her head and it swished through the heavy air. A kiss of coolness caressed her uplifted breast, and she sighed, managing to turn the sound into a moan of delight. What would satisfy him? She wondered with renewed desperation. She unzipped her dress, a scant inch at a time, revealing a navel that had become her trademark. Diamond studs circled her entire belly button, surrounding a larger diamond dead in the center. With a flourish that marked a surge of pain from the splinter in her butt, she managed to fling her gown aside. Oh yeah, baby. Give me more, else I'll cut your pussy to ribbons. She had no doubt he meant every word. Okay. Well, I had something. Okay. Thanks. She had no doubt he meant every word. With a few more gyrations, she shed the high heels that had cast blisters on her toes. That had caused blisters on her toes. Could she do this? She was down to the denim bra that shoved her boobs skywards and a G-string. She started across the coffin of a room, then pivoted and headed back. A dark cloud of mosquitoes hovered overhead like a curse. Thank you. From the bleak shadows, a foot shot out. From the bleak shadows, a foot shot out. She stumbled and fell face down in his lap. That's when she felt the cold, sharp blade of the knife. With no precise flick of the blade, she inserted it between her breasts and slit the clasp on her bra. Her boobs tumbled forward, hitting him in the face, beneath her tummy. A dangerous erection prodded at her. He sucked one nipple into his mouth while his broad hand shot between her legs, then found the opening. He stroked gently for a moment, his lips suckling with the same cadence, and she prayed her mojo had returned. Oh yes, she murmured as if she was enjoying this. A second later, he flipped her onto her back, and one swipe of his knife cut the G-string. He rammed into her like a bulldozer. Something ripped inside her, forcing out a scream she'd promised she wouldn't let come. Tiny pricks of light exploded in the darkness behind her closed eyelids. Maybe Caleb was right. She declined. Enough of this shit. Chapter 5. Oh my gosh. Let me go get some sugar while reading your comments kidogo, because you remember I can't see your comments when I'm on the other side. Oh my gosh. Is that a heart? A burning heart? Someone gave me a burning heart. Ama naona zangu. Thank you so much. Victim Madness. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victim Madness, for the flower. Okay. Kali Crochet. Okay, not crochet. Kali Crochet. Thank you everyone who's laughing. Unasoma na expressions kwani muhimu. Expressions muhimu. What else, you guys? Guys, follow me if you want me to continue. Follow me if you want me to continue with chapter 4. Follow. Let me come with my sugar to make my tea. Guys, oh my gosh. Did Renata just get raped? Ama what was that? See, your book inasema hivyo. I know she's a dancer, but that doesn't give anybody the right to rape her. Guys, if you're just joining, Every Waking Moment by Meryl Sawyer. Welcome to the book club. Remember to gift. Ndio karai kangu kaende na mandazi. I need mandazi for my tea, you guys. Gift. Like. Tell me, comment. Do you guys like? Are you loving the book club? Tap to buy me sugar. No joke though, on a very serious note, I need sugar. My sugar is done. Dun, 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 dun. So guys, we're reading Every Waking Moment. So Taylor and Shane and Brianna have gone to find Renata, but clearly Renata is in a shack. She's been kidnapped by this guy who we've not been told who he is yet, right? And this guy is mistreating her. He's asked her to strip and cutting off her G-string and raping her. That's so bad. Anyway, that's some amazing hot tea. Where? This is black Kenyan tea with some, with what? With lemon. Guys, I need to get a better couch. Tap on your screen. Gift me a couch so that these readings can be done on a better couch, guys. Okay, we are reading Every Waking Moment by Mariel Sawyer. Every Waking Moment by Mariel Sawyer, chapter 5. Taylor hesitated outside the door to Shane's room. She didn't know which was worse, dealing with her mother or with Shane Donovan. Her mother was totally obsessed with Renata Rollins. Vanessa was convinced this woman had to be her long-lost daughter. The last thing Taylor wanted was to have her mother's final days ruined by charlatans after her money. Since meeting Caleb Bassett, Taylor was positive the man was an appealing imposter who would cause her mother needless pain. What did Shane think? They'd left Caleb and returned to the Windsor Court Hotel without Shane saying anything much except he was going to check the story Caleb had told them. Brianna hadn't been helpful either, claiming Caleb was an unusual person, but he just might be telling the truth. No getting around it. Caleb Bassett had a way about him that was combined with his good looks could very well take in her mother. Taylor knocked down and waited, listening to the thunder grumbling in the distance, promising more rain. She had her hand raised to knock again when the door swung open. Shane had pulled on a pair of khaki slacks and had zipped them up, but the button at the waist was undone and he was wearing a shirt. He'd just toweled off from the shower. His skin was still moist and his rebellious hair waved in different directions. "Taylor," he said as if he didn't recognize her. "Do you have a minute?" A bit of silence. Then he stepped aside and she walked into the room. He had his laptop set up on the small round table in the corner. Even at this distance, she could see screensaver, the initials DIA, and an eagle. DIA? What does that stand for? She turned to face him and found him looking at her in a way that was as brilliantly sexual as if he were gazing at her from the same pillow. Meeting his fixed stare with an icy glance, she went into her professional mode, Not wanting him to think for a second, she'd come to his room for any other reason than business. My mother called. She wanted to know what we thought. I explained how little information Caleb gave us, but she didn't care. She's convinced Renata Rollins is her daughter. That's what she wants to believe. Shane combed his wet hair with his fingers, but it didn't help much. Is that what you came to see me about? It couldn't wait until dinner? His teasing tone implied she had some other motive for visiting him. No, I wanted to know if you'd found out anything, she told him in a breathless rush. The sooner I can persuade my mother we're dealing with imposters, the better off she'll be. I don't want her last months to be ruined by false hopes. Don't count on it. Shane crossed the room in a few long strides, hit a key on the computer, and the screen went dark. So far, what little Caleb Bassett told us appears to be the truth. He didn't say anything that would prove true, but when Peggy Sue Bassett, Renata's real name, if she's who Caleb says she is, enrolled in first grade, her next of kin was listed as her father and grandmother, Alma Bassett. The adoptive mother must have died the way he said, Taylor replied, a flicker of compassion for Caleb replacing skepticism. She crossed the room so she could look into Shane's eyes. This man was hard to read, and something about him kept disturbing her. She didn't know how to talk to him except defensively. Well, she was going to have to learn. Taylor needed him to thoroughly investigate these people. Alma was on welfare, and so was Caleb, Shane informed her. It isn't the profile of a man who could afford an expensive private adoption where you had to pay off a lawyer and the woman who handed over the baby. The wife's family may have had money. There could be some other explanation. Shane dropped into the chair facing his computer and closed the lid. Bassett had a daughter, but it doesn't mean she was adopted. True. Anything else? The Bassetts moved to Briggs Crossing when Renata was 9, after the grandmother had died. Caleb worked as an insurance salesman. The next year, the house they were renting burnt down and they lost everything. Taylor stifled a groan. You think he's telling the truth? What he's told us so far seems true. You don't think that man is charming? But a bit off. The way he acted, the way he dressed, the house. He might be working with glue a little too much. It took Taylor a second to get it. Very funny. You may not like Caleb Bassett, but what matters to me is verifying whether Renata is the missing baby or not. Unless we can prove they're lying, my mother is going to want to meet Renata. Martha is already talking about bringing them to Miami. Taylor had defeat and desperation in her own voice, but couldn't help it. She gathered her thoughts for a moment, then asked, You found out all that online? Shane nodded. You'd be surprised what's out there in cyberspace. Like why a seemingly poor man went to an attorney for a private adoption, she replied, then waited while Shane studied her in silence. Hold it. How old was Caleb when the baby was adopted? You're smarter than you look. Shane's impudent grin canted to one side in a way some women might have found charming or even sexy. It merely annoyed Taylor. He was 25. That's awfully young to adopt a baby. Not if you knew for certain you couldn't father a child. Doesn't it seem unlikely a man that young, living in a backwater town, have consulted a fertility expert? Maybe he had maps in his teeth and they settled it in his testicles. Maybe he had mumps in his teens and they settled in his testicles. More likely, the mother knew she couldn't have a baby. Women usually push to have children, not men, especially so young. He never had another child and he never remarried, Taylor observed, thinking of Paul Ashton and knowing how it felt to lose the love of your life. The flicker of sympathy she'd felt moments ago intensified. Maybe she'd been too quick to judge Caleb Bassett. He still lives near his daughter, even though she's a grown woman, she said. Strange. Renata shouldered her way through the back door of Puss in Boots with only minutes to spare before her act began. Buzz, get in here, she yelled at the bouncer who kept the low-life creeps from coming backstage. The 300-pound ex-marine lumbered over to her. Hey babe, what in the hell happened? Did a trick go south on you? Sorta, but I got paid plenty. She grabbed his beefy wrist and pulled him into the makeshift excuse of dressing room she shared with Cece LaBeouf. Cece was on stage, fun dancing, and as usual, her makeup was strewn across the dressing table. With a sweep of her arm, Renata sent open bottles and jars crashing to the floor. Money talks, Buzz, real loud. Yeah, all money ever says to me is bye-bye. Renata almost laughed as she wiped off the red sundress she was wearing. Underneath, she was buck naked. She knew Buzz had the hots for her. But seeing her undressed was nothing new. He was backstage all the time, and the girls pranced around naked while getting ready to perform. What you looking for? Buzz asked when she began to rifle around the drawers in a battered Formica dressing table. Tweezers, can't you see that huge splinter in my ass? Behind her, Buzz cleared his throat. They're over there. He edged by her and picked up the tweezers from the mess on the floor. Great, thanks. She pointed to her butt. Pull out the splinter. Buzz placed one clammy hand on her waist. He grunted as he took his sweet time locating the splinter. He yanked it out with another grunt. She bit the inside of her cheek to keep from crying. There's more. It's broken into pieces. Small wonder, she thought. She'd felt it when she'd driven herself here from the bayou. So, the money was great. It beat flatbacks, regular tricks, to hell. The John worked on one of the oil rigs in the Gulf and had money to burn when he was on shore. She'd had rough sex with him before. Each incident became more violent. She swore this was the last time and thought about Caleb's pain as Buzz removed the splinter fragments. "What were you expecting?" Brianna asked as they walked up to the line of men waiting to get into the club where Renata Rollins worked in the seedy fringe of the French Quarter. "Dancing at a club called Puss and Boots isn't the ballet. I should know. I used to make a living lap dancing in Little Havana. Remember?" "Was it like this?" Taylor asked, conscious of the men leering at them. She was unexpectedly thankful they had Shane escorting them. Most of the guys wanting to get into the club looked as if they should be in a police lineup. "It was worse," Brianna replied. "Your uncle was the only gentleman who ever came into the club where I worked." Taylor grudgingly admired Brianna. She never pretended to be anything she wasn't. For an instant, Taylor thought of her mother, a woman who kept her background a well-guarded secret and lived to maintain a place in society. She could just imagine what her mother would say if she saw just the outside of this dive and knew Renata worked here. The sign for Puss in Boots featured a comic strip type painting of a nearly nude woman dressed up in a cat outfit with a long tail and a headband with oversized ears. The nipples of her humongous breasts were covered with fur pasties. She wore shiny black leather, boots up to her knees, and brandished a whip in one hand. The thunder shower had passed, but water dripped from the roofs and formed oily puddles with cigarettes, bats floating on them. A pale ghost of a moon momentarily parted the clouds. Moisture formed gauzy howls around the neon signs for the other joints on the narrow street. Rain had cleared the air but had done nothing to make this place look better. What could? "New Orleans gets more rain than Seattle," Taylor said, thinking out loud about the question for her Trivial Moments game. "No kidding," Shane said with a hint of humor. "Bet on it," Brianna told him. Taylor's hobby is trivia. She knows her facts. Taylor turned for a nonchalant smile, but didn't quite make it. She peered into the alley across the street. Piles of cardboard boxes, soggy from the rain. A black cat foraging in a McDonald's bag. Discard styrofoam cups. A world away from the Miami she knew. "Both of you stick close to me," Shane ordered. "Don't make eye contact with any man, no matter what they say. Don't answer." Shane guided them around the line of men and walked up to the bouncer. "We're guests of Renata Rollins." Caleb had told them to say this and it would get them inside. The dark man appeared to be Bohemian, and he looked them over while the men nearby whistled and tried to get their attention. Shane slipped the bouncer a folded bill and he stepped aside. The stench of beer, cigarette smoke, and rank body odor hit Taylor the second she walked into the pitch-dark club, lit only by a blue neon sign advertising a bitter beer. Off to one side was a long bar with several women in pussycat outfits serving drinks. At the front of the club was a small stage with the brass pole in the center. I see a table near the front, Shane said as he guided them through a warren of tables crammed with men. It's raining. I wonder if you can hear me. Several men reached out to go grab them, but Shane zapped them with a look that could have backed down a pit bull, except for the women who worked here. They were the only females in the club. The three of them huddled around a table the size of a dinner plate in the second row from the stage. A waitress in a red bear outfit with limp ears and a tail that dragged behind her collected the cards and brought them a picture of what she claimed was their famous husband. Can you hear, guys? The phosphorescent drink, so popular to bourbon, tastes like lukewarm turpentine in this club. Let me know whether you can hear me. I'm gonna stop for a minute and let the rain pass, and then we come back. We are on chapter 5 and we're still reading Every Waking Moment. Okay. And then again, pa 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 pa. Can you guys hear me when it rains like that? Let me give it a second. Can you hear the thunder is almost striking? Mnasikia? Should I just continue reading the book? This rain is about to go down. It's about to go down. Anyway, guys, remember you can find this reading on my YouTube channel at Modern Poker. It's my acting channel. Remember to subscribe, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Remember to also subscribe to my other YouTube channel, The Poker, for amazing content. If you miss me, ukinimiss usinihate, niko online and ni rahisi kunipata, sindio? So bye guys, acha ni end live, ni get into cozy clothes and then do like movie night or movie day juni saa 9. It's so dark outside, you guys have no idea. Anyway, bye. We will continue the book reading tomorrow. Sorry, today we weren't able to finish after 2 chapters, but oh my god, sorry, today we weren't able to finish 2 chapters, but it is what it is. Bye guys.